box of antennas that we bought for our list company that we found
Okay,
out
John.
weren't as functional as we like.
Really?
So we're fine.
We're going to go ahead and call the Board of Directors meeting to order at 6 o'clock, coming out of closed session. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, it's been moved by Director Bush. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Director Elliott. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes. Item 1 is the flag salute. Director Parks will lead the flag salute.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For those of us who remain standing, Chet, you want to lead the invocation? Since you're here.
Sure.
Thank you.
Our Father in heaven, we bow before thee this evening in the capacity of this monthly meeting of the Kern Valley Healthcare District. We ask you to bless us that our hearts and minds might be open to thy will. But might be those things that be a betterment for the healthcare district and those who might seek care here. Bless us always as we dedicate our time and efforts into thee. This we ask. In my Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
And item 3 is our mission statement, and Director Bush will read the mission statement this evening.
Our mission statement reads, we will provide high-quality, efficient patient care services that respond to community and provider needs. We will provide leadership in health promotion and education for our patients, residents, medical staff, employees, and community throughout the district.
Thank you, Director.
Can we always have him read that? He does it so much better.
Are we going to take a motion on that? I'm kidding. Item B is the closed session report. Scott Nobby, legal counsel.
Yeah, in closed session tonight, the board discussed 2 cases of now existing litigation, Timms versus KVHD and Quinn versus KVHD. No action was taken and no other items were discussed.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Item E is the public comment portion of the meeting. Is there any public comment this evening? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to item F, which is the consent agenda. And Director Elliott had a item he would like to pull.
I would, if you would pull the employee opinion survey, I just have questions about it.
Okay,
Thank you.
we'll move that to, Heidi, do we move that to old business or new business? Doesn't matter.
So, are you approving anything?
It's more just that the board is aware. It's been looked at in a couple of other committees for input.
But does it require action?
It does not.
So we would do that under someone's report?
We could.
Yeah, so whose report would that be, since Tim is not here?
I mean,
Chet's or Mark's, one of the two.
yeah, probably, I don't know what questions I can answer. I mean, we were kind of part of the process of putting it together, but Tim was really responsible for putting it all kind of right down.
So we'll just do it under CEO report.
Okay.
And whatever questions there are, whoever can answer them. will
Fair
answer
enough.
them.
Yeah, okay, Director Williams?
Just fine, sure.
Okay. Thank you. So, we don't need to pull it then?
No, we'll pull it
Oh,
off consent.
oh, okay, then it goes under.
But it's not requiring an action, it's just an information item,
Oh, okay, gotcha.
as I understand it.
Okay.
And something, John, we're supposed to do in strategic planning, we're supposed to be talking about, and I didn't see anything in the agenda. Is there anything in?
It's item 1 under new business.
Item 1 under new business.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'll second the motion.
Oh, no, we need a motion first to approve
Okay.
consent without, excluding the employee.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, moved by Director Parks, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Director Elliott. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of the consent agenda?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, any opposed? Okay, the consent agenda passes excluding the employee appointments. Moving on to item G is the reports. Item 1 is the foundation report, and I don't see Ms. Hyatt here. So Ms. Hess, are you giving a report this evening? I guess you are, welcome.
Good evening. So it's that time of year, we're getting ready for the Heart Walk, so I have the sponsorship form here. This year's money from the Heart Walk is gonna go to purchase an EKG, a portable wireless EKG machine for our mobile clinic that's gonna be here hopefully within a week. And then from the hospital, we have an open house next Friday at Mountain View Health Center. We're gonna show off the renovation we did there, and we will also showcase our new mobile medical clinic. So here's
And,
the
okay,
invitation.
I was gonna say the time of,
It's at 11 o'clock on Friday, the
you have
30th.
to do that on a Friday too. The Tradio audience massacres.
Do you have any questions?
Are there any questions for Ms. Hess regarding the foundation?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hess. So moving on to item 2 is the auxiliary report. Ms. Ruber, welcome.
Oh.
Well, I want to say good evening and Merry Christmas to each and every one of you. We are diligently working on getting Christmas out. My Christmas shed, thanks to Tony Easter Day, is almost empty. And we are now out of Christmas trees. We want to thank Orion back there for doing our Christmas video for the thrift store. It came out and it was an awesome job. And next Wednesday is our Christmas party over at the Eagles, and you are all invited. Either let me know if you're gonna be there and how many, or you can let Heidi know and she'll tell me. Okay, by Friday. And the last thing is we have 3 trainees that we're gonna vote in probably in January. So, that's it.
Time of the Christmas party?
12 o'clock noon at the Eagles.
And you said it's, date is what?
Pardon?
What was the date again?
A week from today, the
12th.
12th.
Because
Thank
it's
you.
killing me.
Too many numbers running through my head.
It's the
Yeah.
11th.
It's 11.
11.
Friday, they said Friday was the 13th.
Yeah, Wednesday is the
Oh,
11th.
Wednesday.
Okay, it's the 11th.
I stand corrected. It's the 11th.
Are there any
Another
questions
Tradio day.
for Ms. Ruber? Okay, well, thank you for the Christmas trees,
Thanks
by the
again.
way, too.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome.
These are
Enjoy.
Very nice.
Thank you.
I'm gonna make socks out of it.
Good luck.
Could I just make one comment? The hospital foundation does better than you guys.
Yeah.
It sounds like fighting words.
Yeah, I know, it's like, oh, okay.
But cannot compare to the effort that your organization puts
I
in.
was- I
They
was
also
joking,
can't
you know, I
compare to the
was-
number, the money we bring in on a daily
Yeah,
basis.
what's the date? Single day.
Okay. Moving on to item 3 is the medical staff report. Dr. Vincent, Chief of Staff.
Thank you. The Pharmacy and Therapeutics Committee met on November 8th. We reviewed and approved 2 policies, including the skilled nursing center facility medication and diagnostic monitoring for the residents, and also approved a new standard precautions policy. We also reviewed our quarterly and monthly reports, including blood usage, blood culture analysis, medication area inspection, medication shortages, restraints and surgical site infections. The Infection Control Committee met on November 8th and reviewed and approved 2 policies, including the standard precautions and the hand hygiene policy. Also reviewed were their monthly and quarterly reports, including hospital-acquired infections, blood cultures, antibiotic usage for both acute care and the skilled nursing facility, along with acute facility and nursing center infection control assessments. The Utilization Review Committee met on November 13th, and discussed issues regarding denials of payments and authorizations, and reviewed and approved a policy regarding the patient admission process. And then the Medical Executive Committee met on November 26th, approved the 3 credential files that were on the agenda tonight, including an ER doctor, podiatrist, and a telemedicine endocrinologist. Also reviewed and approved the standard precautions and medication and diagnostic monitoring policy. Also, the California Hospital Association has released what is called the model medical staff bylaws, which comes out about once every 5 years or so. We've been waiting for this for probably most of this year, used as a template for redoing our bylaws. So that's been has become available as of the basically the 1st of November. So we'll be using that as a template to review our review and update our medical staff bylaws. Also reviewed were the regular monthly reports, and that's the end of my report unless there's any questions.
Okay, any questions for Dr. Finstad?
Okay.
Thank you, Dr.
Great.
Finstad.
Thank you very much.
I know you have to go, so
Yeah.
you're free to
Oh,
go.
thank you.
Now, thank you. And Merry Christmas, by the way.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I guess it's see you in the new year.
Yes, absolutely.
That's right.
Item 4 is the Chief Executive Officer report. Tim's not here, he's still in surgery, but guess Mark, you're gonna do his report this
I
evening?
actually asked him to write something for me, wasn't able to do that, but I will entertain questions of Ross's,
You know,
questions about the employee satisfaction survey.
Yeah, I read through the survey and think that they're really good questions, and I'm glad we're doing it. My questions were, when does it go out, and who compiles the results, and does the board get to see kind of the, not the individual responses, but a report
I
on
don't know, Heidi, outcome.
compilation? That's the word I was looking for. Thank you.
They had talked about sending it out kind of a variety of ways, making it accessible perhaps online to the employees, making written ones accessible for those who don't have online access, just trying to get it out to everybody and to get a response back. The results would definitely be taken to the board for you guys to see, most likely through board personnel and policy first. But the reason why he wanted it brought to the board meetings was several of you had asked to see what was gonna be going out to the employees, and so it's just his way of getting it to everybody.
Okay.
I think what we decided for the distribution is to put it out with the W-2s, because they have to come in and sign for the W-2s.
Okay.
When we put it in the paychecks, it's gone in the trash.
Okay.
But in this way, they actually have to sign, and they can take the W-2, they will get satisfaction certificate.
Okay. Well, good. I hope the employees take it seriously and provide the feedback, because there's potentially some really valuable information there, and I hope that all the employees.
The other
take it
thing is it
seriously.
will probably come to board P&P
Okay.
as
Yeah.
an item of
Yeah.
interest.
Great.
That'd probably be the place for it.
Thank you.
It will, and I guess, if I may, I think the most important, Ross and everybody else, my biggest concern, not really a concern, but I think the number one topic is to let each and every employee know that these are completely anonymous surveys. If they wish to identify themselves, they're certainly welcome to, from what I understand, but it's not required. And
Well, I
so-
see it's got the optional.
yeah,
On
yeah,
the bottom there.
yeah.
Just
And
the
I
ability to
think
take the
it really
information
needs to.
however we can get it anonymous, not, we
Really,
want the
yeah,
information.
it really needs to be made clear to everybody that, look, we're not gonna do handwriting analysis, you know? We're not gonna try to match the typeface on your IBM Selectric, you know? Make any effort to identify the respondent, but yeah, it is. The questions are good, it's valuable information.
I think so too. You know, in my past life when I worked, I did a lot of work with process improvement teams, and often the answers to solutions that the organizations are facing came directly from the frontline employees.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, they gotta deal with problems every day, and they can identify those problems, and they might even have really good solutions. And would love to hear from everybody. So I hope that we get a really good response rate for the surveys.
I do, also, I had spoken with our CEO briefly about it. I made the suggestion that maybe we do it in bits and pieces, because I thought if somebody gets this whole questionnaire on a day where maybe they had a bad day, or even a good day, you know, either way. Maybe had a conflict with another employee or a supervisor, or a supervisor had a conflict with an employee, that we might get, it might become too modal in their answer. But our CEO, Tim, assured us that, you know, it was kind of developed with the help of professionals that do this, so, you know, I trust their expertise.
Super, thank you. Thanks for pulling it off the consent agenda for.
Glad I could help.
Okay, you had a question?
Yeah, I wondered what brought this on. Is this the first time it's been done? And
No,
you said it
we
was-
have done this in the past. We've
Okay.
done, how many of them over the years?
Good.
We did one about 3 years ago, right?
2014, 2015.
Okay, so 4 or 5 years ago. And got a low percentage back. I think we only got 20% maybe, if that. So we're really kind of trying to market this one a little bit more to the staff. And as Chet said, we'll give it out at the, with the W-2s so that everybody actually, everybody got one, because they have to sign those.
Are the employees aware that this is coming?
I've made it aware at my staff meetings.
Yeah, I mean, it's no secret, isn't it? Yeah, okay.
It's sort of been announced in a couple of like,
Yeah, good.
employee events that one's gonna be coming.
Yeah, good.
Would it be appropriate to put like a due date on it, so they know?
We will put a due date on it. We
Yes.
weren't sure when it was gonna be sent out,
Okay.
so it's more just to give you the questions, but.
Right.
a due
Hopefully
date
the
will be put on
returns
it.
will come back higher than our discharge patient return service. Yeah.
Is there anything else? Okay, no, since that was,
That's the report?
I was waiting for them to invite you to do that.
I just had a quick point of, since that was pulled off consent, we have to approve that separately? or
It's
is
more
it
just information.
This information, okay. Okay, Mark, go ahead with your chief nursing officer
Okay,
report.
so here we go. As I reported, the last couple of meetings, that local Kern County facilities are joining forces to apply resources to the opioid problem locally. The hospital is doing its part. We're evaluating our prescribing practices from the ER, specifically how many prescriptions are going out and what the quantity of those prescriptions are. We've decreased the quantity, which means that you, instead of getting, 30 tablets of the narcotic, you might get 10 or 5 or 6 or, those kind of things. So the doctors are very diligent about that. They're also prescribing alternatives now. Instead of just going to the narcotic, they're gonna provide appropriate pain management, but they're not knee-jerk going to the opioid anymore. So, and we have seen a noticeable drop in the number of narcotics being prescribed. We have not been able to have an ED committee meeting to discuss whether we're going to be doing a medication-assisted treatment program out of the ER. There is some research that supports that, and I want to present that at an ED committee when Dr. Shamus is here to be able to respond, and also managing the prescribing of Narcan with any potentially any drugs of abuse. So we did submit our application to the CNA licensing board and received notification where we need to make some alterations. That has been, there was one correction made or one alteration made about a week, 9 days ago now. Wednesday last week, so a week ago, and we're pretty I think no news is good news in this case. I think that it's only a matter of time they'll just approve it for us. They, up there in Sacramento, really want nursing assistant programs to succeed. So that's kind of what I'm hearing. John C. Fremont has one, Southern Inyo has one, so we're hopeful to have one very soon ourselves. We also developed with Chet's help, an attractive incentive program to bring CNAs here to the Valley. We did advertise in Ridgecrest and in Bakersfield. I don't know that the advertisement was descriptive enough of what we were offering because we got 0 responses from those. So we may have to get a little bit more descriptive of, hey, we're going to give you X amount of dollars, or we're going to do this for you, just to kind of help them understand what this program is. So we may have to revisit that. We did have a multi-agency emergency preparedness exercise. That seismic event went well. Bob Easterday is working on the summary of that, among other things. Yeah. It's probably found a few, been knocked down his priority list a couple of times now, but he'll bring it back.
And we have the other one coming up.
Yeah, and I'm just going to mention that we have another emergency preparedness exercise that is state or countywide, Bob?
County. Well, it's Kern County for a spinoff of the statewide group.
Okay, so we are going to have a simulated Ebola patient check into our ER with transfer. Subsequent, we're going to treat that patient and then transfer to KMC, and it's going to actually happen where the transferring agencies have to get involved, EMS has to do their part. What would they do in this scenario? Where are we going to isolate that patient? How we're going to treat that patient and get them down to KMC? Then KMC is going to participate also. They're the ones that called this. Bob went to a meeting this afternoon to get all the particulars worked out. So we're kind of interested to see how that comes out.
Are these, may I ask, are these set up, there's protocol, everybody knows what to do, or is it kind of a test?
It's, well, 2 years ago, we had there was a big Ebola effort to get get people thinking about what they would do if something like that were to present to your ER. I think Ross probably remembers those times. But recently, there's been another incident where Ebola is kind of coming into vogue again in unfortunately in Africa. So, you know, gestational period of those are is anywhere from 3 to 21 days. So a person could potentially be infected and not know it 3 weeks ago and present to the ER with those symptoms if they had traveled outside into one of those areas. So that's kind of what we're talking about. And it literally is a modified contact precautions. You know, if somebody's, depending on what their source of infection is and what's happening with them, indicates how we treat that. It's not a respiratory isolate.
Right, and it's an extremely aggressive hemorrhagic fever. That's
Right.
basically what it is. Requires very extended contact precautions. In fact, this came out today in the meeting. They want everybody in full suits,
Full pappers.
everything, both on our staff, up leading in.
But we know this ahead of time. It's not gonna be somebody coming in and having to be diagnosed.
Well,
It is going to be, that's the scenario. They're
yes,
going to
that's
check
the
into our
scenario.
ER.
They're gonna come into the
Okay.
ED and
We
start
have to
talking
react.
about and see, they do not want us to give the measles, which is the list of things we're going to do, to the staff. The staff are supposed to, and obviously they're gonna know there's a drill.
Yeah.
But they have to figure out what's going on. We have to announce it, we have to call EMS. They will put the team together at KMC, they will transport up here, they will get all suited up. They will then take the patient, they will go in the isopod, and we have to wrap the ambulance completely on the inside, and we have to put the person
portion in there, we're transporting to Bakersfield to a paramedic. So it's an exercise on everybody's part. Everybody has the policies in place already. We have a policy on how to handle it and deal with it. It's just a practice on following what our policies and procedures are. Okay. One of my focuses that I'm going to be really kind of bringing to light with the nursing staff is our own customer satisfaction surveys. I know that in our quality reporting, some of the scores had dropped a little bit in the second quarter of this year. So we are going to have a very concerted campaign to start aggressively taking customer satisfaction into the hospital patient rooms. So I've been checking with other facilities to find out what they're doing, and so I've got some good ideas for that. And then the final thing, the Christmas party, is the 12th. This is the hospital employee luncheon, awards ceremony, Christmas party, being catered by Lino's Greenhorn Grill, and that will be on Thursday the 12th. That's the day after the 11th. That's the day before the 13th. And that is my report, unless there are questions.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Gordon? Thank you, Mark. Moving on to the CFO report, Mr. Beadle. It sounded like your throat was kind of messed up. If you want Barbara to do it for you, you can. Are you okay?
I'm just trying to stay out of the rain.
Okay. Just thought I'd ask.
Let's talk a little bit about utilization for the month of October 1st. We'll start with the acute beds. I told you in the month of, for the month of September, we started seeing a little better utilization in our medical surgical unit. That carried forward into the October utilization in there as well. The acute side was about the same utilization as it was in the same month of the prior year, an average daily census of 3.1 versus 3.5 in October of 2018. But the swing beds made a substantial difference. Again, I talked about the fact last month that we were no longer admitting patients into our SNP because of the availability of CNAs. And so we actually had some SNP patients again in our swing beds. So we actually had an average daily census of swing beds of 4.9, which in the year ago, same month, it was only 0.4. So that's a lot of difference in total from a total of 8 in our unit, average daily census to 3.9. And it does make a substantial difference in our revenue generation in that unit, as well as our net revenue availability, because Medicare patients, many of these are Medicare patients, and they actually are where they would normally be under the Medi-Cal side, because they're usually Medi-Medis. They're under their Medicare coverage, although we're using up some of their 100 days that they have per year. They do have to also qualify with a 3-day length of stay in acute beds somewhere, either here or elsewhere. In the long-term care, we did about the same as we did last year. Last year was 56.5, it was 56.3 average daily census. That's still well below what we would like to see. Our budget was 58, but it's a situation where, as I just said, we were keeping a couple of patients in the swing beds because of unavailability of CNAs. The emergency room had a better month than the prior year, and had 561 visits versus the prior year of 523. However, our numbers as far as the admissions was the lowest I think I've ever seen it here. It was 2.5%.
that month. So there's some strategies we're looking at from a lot of different ways and how we can get our ER doctors to admit more patients here. Matter of fact, I had a discussion with Dr. Gross today relative to that, and his concern is not only that they don't get admitted, but in some cases they get discharged and then come back again in a short term. And so there's some both clinical and logistics and administrative things that we need to try to work on there, and that's a work in progress. Total outpatient visits.
Oh, Chad, Ross just had a quick question.
On the readmissions, don't we get dinged on our medical?
Not to ER, but we do get dinged if they go into the hospital itself.
Okay.
If they get discharged from the hospital and then readmitted to
And
the
then
hospital,
that's when we get penalized.
So these people are not getting, they're being discharged from the ER, and
Okay.
they can come back with no penalty.
Okay.
Except for our utilization review with overtime to say that why did they get away from us? If you know what I'm saying. Okay, so anyway, it's now we go to our outpatient referred patients. We had, again, another good month of outpatient referreds, meaning from our clinic as well as from other primary care providers in the area. We actually did 1,300 outpatient visits versus 1,181 in the same month as the prior year. Our observation days are down substantially. I think we're actually having more patients designated to swing than observation at this point, which is a good thing. But we'll see if that holds in the future, because we only got 2 observation days, where in the prior year we had 22. A substantial difference there. The primary care clinic visits were, again, one of the highest months that we've seen. We had 1,395 in the prior year, same month, and we did 1,521. It's a very good month for primary care in the clinic as well. As it was for specialty visits, 325 versus 303 in the prior year. The area that's substantially down, however, this particular month is the area of surgeries, including our scopes. We had 0 inpatient surgeries and 1 outpatient surgery. In the prior year, 1 inpatient and 4 outpatients. So that is a huge drop-off. As well, we only had 37 endoscopies, and in the prior year, same month, we had 43. So the surgical services, we need to think of some different things there, how we're working. That's not untrue in many places, but it certainly is true here. The pharmacy, again, was as another growth area, retail pharmacy. We actually filled 3,671 scripts, where in the prior year only 3,000. Now, as to dollars that came from that and how they ferreted through the system, for the first time, I think, in many, many months, we were well over our inpatient revenue, which includes acute and swing. Again, with that swing bed census that we actually had, instead of those patients being in the SNF, we actually were $219,000 over our budget in acute. Actually, in the prior year, we generated $990,000. This year, in that month, we actually generated $1.3 million, so almost $1.4 million. So that makes a substantial difference. It was well above the budget. In the clinic, we were above budget, but for the number of visits, we weren't substantially above budget. Although, we were substantially above the prior year. The prior year had $1.2 million, almost $1.3 million in revenue generation, and it was $1.422 million in this particular month of October this year. The outpatients, however, even though we saw a fairly good amount of patients as far as referred outpatients, we had low intensity of service in the ER. And what that did was, we actually, even with the 7% price increase in July, last year we generated $4.3 million for fewer patients. This year we generated almost about the same, 4.381, for substantially more patients. And so the intensity of service in the, what that means is the intensity of service in the ER of the ancillaries were not nearly that as high as they had been. Although that also shows itself in the number of patients admitted versus, or discharged versus being admitted. So the intensity was down. The long-term care, as I said, was about the same. 2.1 last year, even 7% price increase, 2.1 million this year. And then pharmacy actually went from 148,000 generation last year, the same month, to 179. So that's a total of 9.4 million, not at our budget, below our budget by 408,000 because of the outpatient intensity. Collectible, last year, although when you have intensity actually down in revenue, also your deductions and discounts aren't as high as a percentage. So what we did was we actually have 2.4 million collectible out of the total of for this year, and last year was 2.2. So that was 176,000 below budget because of the intensity, but it was still substantially higher than last year. Our whereas our operating expenses last year, 2.2 million this year, even with our inflation factors and the raises that we have given thus far, 2.3 million. So not dramatically. Only it was actually 269,000 below our budget for our operating expenses, which actually helped us a lot because last year we only actually generated from operations 34,000, and this year we actually generated 144,000, which is about 92,000 above our budget. The non-operating revenue and long-term expenses were relatively small and the same, $2,923, but that left us with a profit for the month of 147,166 versus a budget of 57,929 and a prior year profit of 39,044. That gives us for the year to date of the 4 months 133,354 profit. Budget of 229,848 was still under budget because of July and August. And prior year for the 4 months, 27,175. Cash was relatively good. We had no major items, with the exception that we did get a little bit of prime money in. So we generated 2.3 million in cash receipts. Our budget was 2.3 million, but we had about 250,000 or 260,000 more than what we had anticipated because of the prime or IGT money. Not as much money was generated or collected in the from the claims receipts, mostly in the area of Medicare was down under its budget. Medi-Cal was, insurance was a little bit more. HMOs were down from under budget, and other costs were under budget. Retail pharmacy was about on budget. In the total, it still came out to almost the same. As far as disbursements, we were high in disbursements, mostly in other type disbursements. Our salaries were okay, our professional fees were okay, our supplies were okay, our registry and data processing drove us over the budget for disbursements for operations. We did pay the normal amount of our interest on the Cal mortgage loan, $23,000, and we only had $10,000 in construction. We did, however, because we had the money come in from our IGT Prime, we paid $50,000 on a bond that we had not anticipated or budgeted in this month. We paid another 50,000 extra on our bank line to get it down, which we normally do not do. So we ended the month with $1,155,000 in operations. Our budget was $1,250,000, and that's my report unless there are questions.
Are there any questions for Chet? Chet, I just had two quick questions, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
On page 16 real quick, on the insurance expense, I saw it was negative 87,000. What, I just
We got a rebate on our workers' comp from Beta.
Oh, is that what that
once-
was?
Yeah, and
Oh,
so
okay.
that when we applied the rebate, we actually ended up with a negative. That's how that happened.
Oh, okay.
Once a year, what we are is, it's a captive insurance company. So what happens is we are one of the primary members of that original captive insurance. And if the whole Beta does well, then based upon how we do, as far as our experience mod factor, our experience for that insurance, we get a rebate, and I think pretty much almost every year the workers' comp has done pretty well. So we got a rebate that now understand that we pay $50,000 a month in that just the workers' comp premium.
Right.
So if we get 30 or 40,000 in a year back, I mean, in that 1 month it looked real great, but it's still a lot of money.
Right. And then my second question, was there any other discussion with Gary Hicks about what we discussed last month about the bonds or anything like that?
Yes, basically, the board approved the contracts for Gary and for the attorney. Harper Jaffrey has submitted their contract to also do the underwriting, to be the underwriter. It is also a contingent contract. It doesn't, unless unless the bond goes through, or we just cancel it, there's no payment. It's been sent to Scott. Scott reviewed it. I think the only problem we had was venue, and they changed that already. So it will come to the finance committee at our meeting this month.
Okay.
Other than that, that's kind of where we are. The biggest other thing that happened, I guess, involved is we did have a discussion. I did have a discussion along with Gary with Cal Mortgage. Cal Mortgage is not real high on this refinancing. Not because they don't believe the information is correct, but what they actually say is they've done us a favor with their note that they did, or their promissory note. We had done a special debt relief, and they feel like maybe we're not acknowledging how nice that was of them to give us an unusual type of loan, if you will. Plus the fact that they actually would be losing a little interest. I mean, when we talk about $300,000 in interest that we would save, yes, part of it is interest to the bondholders, but there's another part of the interest on the promissory note factored in there that is actually interest to them. And so they will, what my understanding is at this point, is they will try, and Cal Mortgage requires it anyway, they will try private placement bonds before they try the public bonds. Most of the time what happens with that is the cost is so much higher, or the decline, named private purchaser of the bonds are usually, it's more difficult, and they want a higher interest rate. But so they'll look at both, and then we'll come back to the board with what it looks like for private placement with banks, and what it looks like with public placement.
Yeah, because that's all private placement in the open market. That's all regulated by the SEC and what is it?
Oh, absolutely. See, it goes to Piper Jaffray. They do all that, and as a part of their contract, they cross all the T's and dot all the I's that have to happen with all of the requirements. The only thing that we get into as individually with the SEC is after the bonds are let, we have to do dissemination report every year. We do on our bonds right now.
Right.
And so as long as and it has to be posted on a website called Emma, and as long as that report is done and posted every year, we're good with the SEC.
I mean, hypothetically, I totally understand that they would be concerned losing interest, because that's deferred, but I still look at it from it's a win-win for everybody, because, we're getting out of Cal Mortgage and freeing up our assets, and I think it would be good for them, because they're not having to pay insurance on these bonds that they guarantee.
To see, if they don't sponsor it, then the interest rate goes up.
Right.
So we still want them to sponsor it, is the idea. And so it's, I kind of felt from my discussion with our contact supervisor, the person right under the director, she's the one that I worked with on the promissory note, on the debt relief plan. And it was more of my feeling was, it was more of I was a nice guy, I did this all for you, and it wasn't a compliant program, and you need to be pleased that we were doing all we were doing, and recognize that. And we do, we're pleased, obviously. But so it's a work in progress.
Okay. Knock on wood.
Actually, I think because of our profitability, our audited profitability the last couple of years, and it looks like probably it's going to be, I'm almost finished with the audit now, and basically that should be in within, by the time the finance committee comes, I think I probably will have a draft.
Okay.
And it's going to look good again. Not quite as good as the year before, but it's going to look pretty good.
Thank you, Chad.
Can I
Oh, I'm
mention
sorry.
one thing?
Yes, go ahead.
The finance committee meeting date has been changed, because it would normally fall on the Wednesday, the last Wednesday of the month before, the board meetings the following week, and it happens to fall on Christmas, and Heidi was thinking we might not get people show up on Christmas Day for a finance committee meeting, so.
Good call.
It's been moved to the 23rd, Monday the 23rd at 9 o'clock.
Okay.
And we also have the board construction meeting.
Same day.
On that Sunday, same day.
On the
Okay.
23rd.
Good. Okay, thank you. Moving on to old business is going back to the ACHD membership renewal that we discussed last month. This is still an action item, whether or not the board wants to continue in the membership or decline it.
What's the timeline on this?
We are holding the invoice right now, let me say it that
I'm
way.
sorry?
We are holding the invoice.
Oh, gotcha, okay.
Yeah, it was due a
So
ways back.
Yeah.
We need to let them know.
I did hear that even if we're not in ACHD, we could still participate in the conferences if we wanted to, correct?
There's a slight increase in the fee, but it's not comparable to what our fees are.
Okay.
Our membership fees are.
But they might not exist if we don't help them be there, the dues. If they go away, we can't participate as a non-member, because it won't be an organization. Is that,
I do
Yeah,
have a
they might let you
question though.
participate in certain things, but you probably have to pay a fee.
yeah,
That's what we got.
but if we don't support them, they might not be there, they might not exist.
That's true.
So, we couldn't
The
participate.
DHLF has taken over more and more and more, which is District Hospital Leadership Forum. Pretty much all the financial stuff is moved to DHLF.
Yeah, I think what we've discussed to this point is the, what are we getting out of it? And has that contribution from ACHD diminished over the past, I've seen it diminish over the past couple of years as far as our representation in front of the state legislature. We have, if I'm not mistaken, the president he's retiring this year, right?
They did put a call into their director to
Yeah.
explain to him what the district's concerns were.
Okay.
Director, I'm sorry, you had a question.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anybody in the room that can answer this, but is our membership in beta tied in any way to ACHD?
It used to be. I
It
think.
used to, but not anymore.
But not anymore, okay. So there's no reason for us to continue to be members, unless we see value in it. And, you know, from Tim's recommendation last time, he's, you know, leaning towards, this is probably an expense we don't really need. And, you know, the dues were substantial, I forget the figures, $8,000 or $9,000 a year.
$8,000.
Yeah. You know, so that's a savings. If we don't see value in it, then, you know, there's an opportunity to save a few bucks. And you know, when I was working with different healthcare organizations in Sacramento, and I've worked with several of them on, you know, collaborating on legislation, and I'd never even heard of ACHD. As far as I'm concerned, their presence up there is really limited. So I don't know if we're getting value for that dollar.
The only brief discussion I had with Tim before he had to go into surgery the other day, or the day when he was here, he did relay to ACHD some of the concerns that we had with the value of the organization, and having gone the last couple of years, I noticed this year some of the training sessions were, I mean, some of them were actually very good, but there were some things that they had cut out from last year to save costs. And according to Tim, when he talked to the retiring CEO, some of the other hospitals had very similar concerns about how the conference was being put on. So,
Well,
any other thoughts?
if we don't renew, we won't be banned forever, right? We could go back
No, you
next
can
year, or
always,
in
if
6
there's
months.
terminations, you
Or in
can
6
still.
months, we could go ahead and
Well, we could
reestablish.
revisit next year, you know,
Yeah, you
but
can.
Or if they come to us and present a reason why we should be participating, maybe.
Well, that's kind of what I was thinking, was, you know, if we drop out now, they're gonna be hiring a new executive officer down the road to replace the guy that's retiring. And maybe they'll rework some things and they can woo us back. But, you know, as it stands today, I don't know that we're getting the value that we need out of our
Well,
membership costs.
I tend to, just so you know where I'm coming from too, I tend to agree with you on that. It may not be a huge amount of money, but when you add the expense of that to the expense of having our membership pay, you know, having the district pay to have the board, you know, attend these things, and if we're not coming back going, boy, that was worth every penny of it, then, something that, save wherever we can.
It sounds like we all agree we need a motion to do anything.
It is an action item.
Yeah, I'll make the motion that we withdraw from membership of the ACHD.
And I will second.
Okay, there's a motion by Director Elliott, and it's been seconded by Director Bush. Is there any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes. Under new business, so we have the strategic planning. I know Gene has brought this up several times, and it is something that we definitely want to do in 2020. All I can say, Gene, is January, February are not good months for me.
But maybe we can get Heidi to look at some potential in February and coordinate things and look stuff. Is that something she could do?
Sort of trying to find locations.
Start looking and putting it together to.
Tim's plan was, for the strategic planning, was to start looking at a couple of
Right.
different facilitators and looking at costs and stuff.
Right.
Talking about it in governance in January.
Okay, well, for February, because John won't be available at all in January.
We
You
have
said
started
you-
the process in February, like looking for the
Looking
locations.
for, start
and-
looking now actually for them, because it's not,
Since we're on the topic, I wanted to, I don't mean to put Ms. TFL on the spot, but, because I know in the past, the past board of KVHD has had it at Logic Painted Rock. Is that still an option down the road? Are you and Tom still involved with that at all? Or, I'm just kind of thinking out loud as a potential venue. Not at this,
It's not available at this time.
okay, fair enough.
Paradise Cove would be, although
I
he
have
has
to
something to
recuse
do with it, but it would be an option for sure. The senior center, all of them.
I have a really big couch
Yeah,
at my
yeah,
house.
Okay, so she's gonna
And,
look
and,
into.
and Parks Insurance is too small, so.
Well, no, not really.
But there are, I mean, there's also, Steve Spradlin's new place in town, that's one option, or Ewing's, or,
Yeah.
I'm just thinking out loud of, you know,
Yeah, well, we wanna make
So-
it easy for us and for the public.
Oh,
Make it,
absolutely, yeah.
Accommodate them and make it so that everyone that wants to can participate.
Well, it depends
So-
on what you're looking for. I mean, you know, does the senior center make, veteran center make sense? As far as, I mean, you can accommodate quite a bit of public there, but I don't know. Or if you're looking for something that's a little more user
this kind of
friendly.
thing, like, yeah, like more user friendly. Chet, have you guys had the strategic planning at the senior center before, or like?
We have not done, no, we've done some construction, presentations, but we have not done any strategic planning there.
Okay.
We have done it at Whispering Pines, at Sequoia.
Sierra
Place down
Vista.
here.
No.
So Sierra
Sequoia.
Vista.
There's
No,
a
no, no.
Sequoia Art
Sequoia
Gallery,
Arts Gallery.
something.
We did
Oh.
it there once,
Oh, okay.
we did it at Alta Sierra once.
The Lodge of Painted Rock.
We've done it here at the hospital, in the cafeteria area. We cordoned that off and did it there.
Okay.
Places like that is where we've done it.
Okay. I guess I was just thinking of places that were.
Well, we did it out at, Painted Rock
The Painted Rock, yeah. Yeah.
place.
I guess I was just thinking of places that were more
Yeah,
casual.
I understand.
Yeah.
You know, the atmosphere at the senior center is sort of not there. Make it easier.
Yeah.
Every time I go to a public meeting there, it seems to be the hostility level rises. But, well, we should probably, at least at this point, get together a list of options and that we
We
can,
plan to gather some of that in January and have it for
Yeah.
governance to look at.
See what's available and then we can.
and depending on your schedule, Mr. Chairman, I mean, if you're kind of booked through February too, that's not.
Yeah, January and February are kind of a little bit chaotic right
Yeah.
now, but, and I don't even know if I'll be the chair next month, there's a board election next month too, so.
Oh,
I can't see any changing unless Ross wants to be more.
Ross,
Do we need a motion for anything or?
No, it's, staff knows what to do. No
Ross,
need to take action.
did you have any input on, at this point, or?
No, you know, worst case, we can have it in here, you know, if it ends up being, you know, cost prohibitive, then I'm not opposed to having it on site. I know that they could be more productive sometimes off-site and get people away from
Well,
the
we
work
could do it in the
environment.
cafeteria for that matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've done it there before, and
Yes,
yes,
right.
it works.
The ones that we've done on site make it easier for the department managers to participate and not be away from the
well,
facilities.
that makes perfect sense to me. I mean, the easier access, the more input we're gonna get and reactions, so. I mean, do you know anybody at the hospital we have to talk to?
We've got some connections with
Okay.
some of
But look into all the options.
Yes,
including-
absolutely.
I know the dietitian.
I know one of the workers.
Okay.
Well, I'm not opposed to that recommendation,
Okay,
put it that way.
okay. I think,
I think it's solid.
yeah, I know Barbara's not here because she's sick,
Yeah.
but I think the general consensus of the five of us has been, you know, we should do some
I
kind of
know
strategic.
one of the things we're trying to do is look through facilitators, get some facilitators for each.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely, that's gonna be really important.
Well, you've done some of that too, haven't you, Ross? Facilitating?
Years ago,
Yeah,
lost
would
my
you,
edge.
That was
would
another-
you be interested in it?
Back
No,
when you,
as a board member, you wouldn't want me as a facilitator.
back where you back when you worked.
Okay, and the last new business item is the January board meeting. I believe that is on
It falls on New Year's Day.
New Year's
New
Day.
Year's Day.
I can't miss the football game.
So we could,
8th?
the 8th, I won't be here that. What about the 2nd or the 6th? Would that work for anybody, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, either one works for me.
Yeah. Either one.
You're good with that?
You wanna just bump it a day to the 2nd?
Scott?
I can do the second. I have a conflict on the sixth.
Second would be good.
Thursday the 2nd? Is that good?
Yes.
Okay. Are you guys still gonna be on vacation, or? I don't know.
I actually will be in Utah in second, but, I mean, Barbara could do it.
Hey, Barbara, you're on.
The sixth may be better, actually, because I can move that meeting and I'm not sure about the second.
Okay. Yeah, you said the 6th, Scott, is better for you.
Yeah, I'll move that meeting.
Okay.
Well, you're really making me scribble on my new calendar. Crossing things out.
Well, maybe the second.
What happens when you do it in pen?
So do we agree on the 6th?
6th.
Fine with me.
That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine.
You will be here, Chet.
On the 6th? Yes.
You can still have Barbara
We
do
would
the
rather
recording.
have Barbara do it.
Okay, and this is action item to formally move it to that date, the 6th.
So make a motion, we change it to 6.
Okay, so moved by Director Parks. Is there a second?
Go. I'll second.
Okay. Second by Director Bush. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes. Director's comments not appearing on the agenda. We'll start with Director Bush. Anything?
No. Happy holidays to everybody. Merry Christmas. Thank you to the auxiliary and especially to Cindy for these. This is going right in the lobby of the business, so that for more to share. Really appreciate it, and you know, we appreciate everything the auxiliary does, of course.
We enjoyed doing it.
Good. I'm glad. Thanks for all your help and all the help of everybody. I mean, since we won't gather in this forum till after the first of the year, you know, just wonderful staff, wonderful support with the foundation and the auxiliary. I just want to express my appreciation for everybody. But that's it.
Director Parks?
I made a comment to Cindy that the foundation sort of outperforms her, which is a huge joke. They are awesome.
It wasn't that huge.
We are hoping to come close to you guys, and we're working toward it. The auxiliary's awesome. And I was trying to joke.
I know.
Yeah.
Other than that, Merry Christmas.
Okay. Director Elliott, anything?
Thanks, John. I'm looking forward to the open house on the mobile clinic. Can't wait to see it. Does it drive like a dream?
I'll tell you on Friday.
Okay. I'm really excited about that. I think that's gonna be great service to the community. And thank you for your efforts and everybody's efforts to make this a reality. Pretty exciting stuff. And just happy holidays to everybody. Also looking forward to the employee recognition lunch that's coming up too. Next week. So that's it. Thanks.
And I just want to thank everybody for coming out this evening, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And with that, we are adjourned at 7:05.
The Christmas party, it's either the 11th, 12th, or 13th.
It's one of those.
No, it's the 11th.
No, it's here.
So it-
What's the